In today's episode, Casey and I are going to be talking about using your creativity as a soft place to land and a place where you can lay down all the heavy burdens that life might be putting on you. We're also going to be talking about finding your creative voice and exploring different techniques and styles, colors, supplies as a way of being able to find what you love and what excites you. So, as moms of multiples, I love chatting to Casey because I feel like we understand each other in a whole different way because we live in complete chaos most of the time. So, this is such a fun episode, and I know you are going to love hearing all of the insights that Casey has got for us. So, let's jump right into it.
Gotta get messy and show the world you growing as an artist. And you're free to be yourself. You got a dream, you need to start it. Stick together. Get messy says you're formally invited to a community where you can find people that spark the field of excitement. Too many art supplies, not enough time. No, it's tough, and so you must find a way to feel some connection. We got a lot of people with the same kind, a great mind. We here for you, a platform so we can hear your views. Time's yours, forget chores. I know you bored of them same rules.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Get Messy podcast episode. Today, I'm going to be talking to Casey, and I can't wait to hear all about her creative adventures. So thank you so much for saying yes to joining me for this episode. I am so excited to have you as one of the guests.
Absolutely. I was thrilled when you asked me, so I would not miss it.
Do you want to maybe introduce yourself to people that might be listening and aren't quite sure who you are and where you fit in?
Okay. So I am a Christian wife, mother of 5, grandmother of soon to be 5, which is shocking to even say those words. I'm still quite shocked. It's been 2 years since my oldest granddaughter is born, and I'm like, wait, I'm a grandmother. It's weird when you're raising a 5-year-old and you are also a grandma. So, and let's see, I live in a tiny little 1 street light town in Pennsylvania. Like, I'm talking little picturesque American town where everybody knows everybody. So it's, good and bad.
I love that. Good and bad. Yep. I can't imagine staying in such a small place. I think it would be challenging.
It can be, but yet it really has its awesome moments, where community bands together. Like, we literally just had a house fire last night down the road, and so then everybody's like calling you, like, hey, this is on your street. Like, where are you? Like, are you near it? And like, so everybody just comes together and shows their concern, or like people come together, community, to help the people that lost their home. And so it does have its wonderful things.
True. Good. And how did you get into art journaling?
Well, so when I was pregnant with my youngest, so I said she's 5. So 5 years ago, my mother was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, early onset Alzheimer's at the age of 66. And I'm the one that, like, I was pregnant and taking her to these appointments for this diagnosis. And then, like, everything just kind of turned upside down, because now here my mother, who was independent her whole, like, basically my whole life, now had this terrible illness. And I was her main person. My sister lives down south, and obviously I'm in the north, and my mom's in the north. So that was a huge, like, grieving process. Like, after my daughter was born and she was a year old, and then so my mom a year after her diagnosis in 2020, like I all of a sudden had to take her car away from her and like take over her finances and move her into an assisted living. And so there was a huge grieving process that was happening there because I was grieving the person I had known my entire life, you know. And so I was really kind of in a, I don't want to say I was depressed, but I was in a low place, you know. And when you're grieving, especially grieving someone that's alive, it's kind of a weird thing. And so my sister had said, why don't you do some kind of art? Like, because I've always been creative, always. You know, back in fourth grade, I wanted to be an art teacher. You know, when I was an adult, I wanted to be an art teacher. And so I'd always done something with my hands. You know, I sewed, I quilted, I crocheted, like I painted murals for people. Like I just always did something that was creative, but I hadn't for quite a while. When I was pregnant, I stopped doing the quilting because I just couldn't keep up with it. And we had international students in our house, and I had 4 kids of my own. Well, then 5 kids. And so it just, something had to go. So the creativity, the sewing, you know, that had to be put on the back burner. So I hadn't done anything for a couple of years. And then my sister was like, why don't you do some kind of art, some kind of mixed media? Because like, you know, kind of art therapy. So I did, like, I went on like Pinterest or Instagram or something, and I'm like, what can I do? What can inspire me? And I did like a mixed media on Canvas, and then really quickly I discovered art journaling. And I remember it literally was 4 years ago, last week, that I did my first art journal page. And I have not stopped since then because it became this way of emotional release. You know, I adapted this routine of getting my emotions and all that inner stuff, whether it's hard, whether it's good, whether it's pretty light and not, you know, not really hard, no matter what it was, the day-to-day goings on, the day-to-day feelings, stresses, blessings, all the things end up in my art journals. It became like this huge blessing and quite surprising that I discovered art journaling and ended up, you know, becoming an online teacher. Like my dream, my 10-year-old dream of being an art teacher, you know, came true, like through something so hard, like something so difficult. And it's still a struggle. I mean, you know, my mom, she declines. I mean, I never know what I'm going to see when I go see her the next time. And I'm choking it back. But, you know, this is why I need art journaling, right? So, and it just goes to show that, like, beauty can come from ashes, you know, like amazing things that I never thought in my wildest dreams could come from something so terrible and something so hard. So I have to be thankful. Like I do have a gratitude for my mom's diagnosis, because you and I would not be here talking today. You know, I would not be involved in Get Messy. I would not be an art teacher if it wasn't for that.
Yeah, it's really special. It's kind of like she's given you a gift.
Yeah.
You know, by allowing you to be able to express yourself creatively like this because of her illness.
Yeah, without her even having a clue, you know.
Yeah. And so we've sort of touched on it quite a lot now, but your journals are really a place where you go to get that emotional release out, right? At a lot of your classes and your process is sort of woven into this idea of this is where I am coming to put my emotions out on the page. Do you think it's got to do with why you started, or is it just that it's such a powerful way to be able to sort of put your burdens down that it just naturally felt like the right thing to do?
Yes, I think that, you know, coming from being a mom, and I know you're a super busy mom too, because you have 6 kids, so we can kind of relate in having large families like that. But regardless of how many kids you have, being a mom is stressful. And if I look back at when my 3 older kids, they're all adults now, they're in their 20s, 22 and 23. And when they were little, like, I did not have good emotional release outlets. I like to call it an outlet, because we all have an outlet of some kind. And a lot of times it can be negative outlets. This is where like addiction comes in, or, you're watching a romantic comedy on TV and you're eating a whole bag of chips, like after the kids go to bed, because that's what we do. Hello. Been there, but like, we're trying to, dare I say, drown our stresses and our sorrows and our frustrations in something. We will find something. And a lot of times it's negative. And I so wish that I would have had this outlet when my older kids were little, because I released a lot on them. I was a yeller. And I shamefully admit that, and I don't want to be a yeller. But finding this form of emotional release has been an incredible blessing, because that's what it turned into. And that's why it just became this natural outlet that I clung to, that, I start my day, maybe depending on what the day looks like, where I'm dumping the burdens of the day before, of the struggles. There's a lot of personal struggle going on in my family, with my kids, obviously my mom, I mentioned. And so there's a lot of heavy. And where do I go with that? What do I do with that? Because if I don't release it, I'm probably going to release it on my little 5-year-old who does not deserve that. So if I give it to my journals, my journals can handle it. It's just putting it out on paper. Even if I'm writing nothing, I'm just getting it out. I don't know how it happens. I wish I could like explain in this magic way of how it actually happens when you're not even writing anything down. But there's something that is released. There's something that I'm surrendering, I'm letting go of, when I'm putting pen to paper, when I'm collaging and loosening up and getting rid of the control and just tearing paper and gluing it down, and that's what I want to shout from the rooftops. I think people have a misconception of what art journaling actually is, or like, because a lot of artists do it as a practice, as like, oh, let's play around with color palettes. Let's see what happens if I do this. And they can safely do it in a journal rather than on like a canvas or something, No, that's not me. Art journaling is a lifeline. It literally is a lifeline for my health and well-being. And so I don't explode on someone I love.
Oh, I love that. I love that idea. And that reason, your big why for journaling, right? It's just, that's beautiful. So for the people that are listening that maybe have not gone to your Instagram page yet, and so that don't know what your work looks like, listening now, they might be like, okay, so are her pages all dark and heavy because obviously she's putting some negative energy into it, or are they bright and light and happy places?
I think it's all of it, honestly. What I have learned, or I don't know, I've been kind of exploring this idea of, talking with other artists or building friendships with other artists, and like seeing what they're lacking in their life. And do they create what they're lacking, or do they create what they're actually going through? And it's very interesting, because some artists create how they actually are feeling. If there's dark, if there's moody, if there's negative stuff, you can see it on their pages. But then sometimes, and I think this is where I land, I create what I'm lacking. I create what I'm longing for. So if my life is chaotic, which that's like literally the theme word for my life is chaos. If it's chaotic, or heavy and I'm longing for calm, I create calm in my journals, because it's like as I'm doing that creative process of creating calm, I'm calming myself down. I'm feeling more calm in that. Um, so, I find, like, I was talking to a friend from Australia, in this art community, and she is so vibrant in her work, like literally so vibrant. And we were chatting about it, and she's like, she kind of had, like, she doesn't have a vibrant life. She feels like she lacks vibrancy in her life at this time. So she creates vibrancy because she misses it or she longs for it, And so I think there really is, maybe, I'm sure there's more options than two options or two kind of people, but I kind of feel like I want to lump everybody into two type of people, or artists, where they're creating what they lack and what they're longing for or what they need in their life, or they're literally putting out on the page what they're going through. And I think most often I create what I need or what I'm longing for, but sometimes I don't.
But I think the majority of the time you are creating beauty, right? Calm and beauty, a lot of white space, a lot of nature and florals, and sort of very delicate, beautiful pages. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that.
I wouldn't say that they're dark and moody and heavy, I mean, it's good to do that every now and then. And I'm sure you've got a few of those sort of drifting around there. But I would say the majority of the time it's very calm. And even the way you create is very calm and intentional.
That's one thing I've heard, like in comments from classes, whatever, or just comments on Instagram, something. One thing that has been a theme word was calm. Like even my voice now, it's kind of weird now because I have a cold, but that even like my voice is calming. And I'm like, do you even know me? Like, I do not sound calm. I'm not calm, but it's interesting that's what comes out. Like that's how people would describe me, my teaching style, and my work. It's just surprising to me. My kids would be like, absolutely not.
Well, it's definitely how I would describe you. It's just, you just seem so relaxed and natural, and it feels like we're hanging out with you at your art table, right? Just making art together.
Well, I love that.
So what would you say are your favorite techniques or supplies that help you to be able to express the emotions or create the feelings that you would like to have in your life? Have you got things that help you to be able to achieve that just because of what they are, whether it's a technique or a supply?
I would say one of my favorite things is, and I mentioned it a little bit before, is collaging first. Like, I'm talking probably 95% of the time that I'm at my art desk, I'm collaging first, because that is kind of like my warm-up layer to letting go and like surrendering, releasing the control, like I said, and just allowing myself that time to be creative. And it's just one of my first like necessary layers. Even if I'm going to cover it up completely, I still collage, like, just because it's that freeing. There's so often in our lives we control things. Like I would never say I'm a control freak, but a lot of times we like to control things. And as moms, as wives, like, we are responsible for a lot of things. And getting the kids here and getting the kids there and making this appointment and making sure they're fed. I mean, we got to feed them, and just all the things. We're in control of so much that this is my place that I'm like, it doesn't have to be precise. It doesn't have to be perfect. I can give up the control, the precision, and loosen up and be free. And so the collage layer, that first step for me, is very important. And then I would say white gesso is my best friend, because this is what I've said in my in-person classes. I probably said it online too, but there is nothing that collage and white gesso cannot cover. And I love white gesso because you just you can add it to so many different things. It blends all the collaging. You can add it to different colors to lighten it, to make things opaque that are not opaque. You make a mistake and you cover it with white gesso. And I just love it. Like, it is an absolute staple. I think it definitely has some, significance as far as, my process of release and of using this as an outlet. Like, we make mistakes in life. A lot of times we can't cover it. It's out there, but white gesso can cover it in your art journal, and so white gesso is like a must. And acrylic paint, honestly, acrylic paint is my absolute favorite. There are very few pages that I don't use acrylic paint in some way. And I think it's just, for one, the variety of colors. I'm not a color mixer. Like, I just want to get the color I want from the tube. I'll mix if I have to, but I just love, spinning my little carousel of acrylic paints and the look of it. And I don't know. And the freedom of just smearing paint around. And I don't know how to describe how I love it, but I like that I can do stenciling with it. I can just paint straight with it. I can do stenciling with it. I can, grab bubble wrap and stamp with it. Like, there's just so many options that I feel like acrylic paint, hands down, is one of my absolute favorites to work with.
I love acrylics too. I think they're just fantastic. So it's quite interesting for me when I hear people say, I hate acrylics. It's like, what is wrong with you?
Do I even know you? We can't be friends. No, I'm just kidding.
You must have the wrong paint there.
I know. Acrylic paint, hey, we can still be friends, I promise.
So have you got multiple spreads on the go at the same time, or are you like a one spread at a time kind of girl?
One spread at a time, for sure, because I'm putting my heart and soul out on that, like, at the time, like, whatever is going on, whatever maybe happened the night before, or whatever is happening in my life at that time, that has to just come out on the pages that are right in front of me. Plus, my desk is way too messy to have like 3 open journals, to be honest with you, because I need space for my acrylic paint and my collage papers and my Mod Podge and all the things. So, rarely I've worked on like 3 different things at a time, but that was probably because I was following like a lesson or something. But no, one open journal at a time. And I kind of pick and choose what journal. I literally have, let's see here, probably 8 journals sitting in front of me that I choose from. But some of them are just for everyday, like random. Some of them are like, like Care December right now, or, things like that. Like, some of them have like a specific purpose, but yeah, no, I just grab one journal and 2-page spread right at that time and done. Close the book, step away, make food for somebody.
I think it's got a lot to do with your why, your reason for creating, right? Is because your focus is getting stuff out onto the page, and so it makes sense then that you would do one spread at a time, because, as you say, each spread has a very specific purpose, feeling, meaning, so bouncing between 5 just isn't the same as
Right.
getting that out onto that page. Whereas for someone else who might, as you say, be color swatching or just wanting to play with colors or explore different techniques or whatever it might be, their purpose behind their creative process is different. So then bouncing between different spreads makes more sense too, right? So I think your process and your reason for creating can affect whether you are a one spread at a time kind of person or multiple spreads. And I don't think there's a right or a wrong way to do it. It's just different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that. And 100%, there really is no right or wrong way to do it, to do any of it in this this way of creativity. There's no rules, you know. And I think if people can just tap into what works for them, what their why is, why are they creating, what is the purpose behind it, what does it do for their health and well-being, you know, that'll look different for many of us.
Yeah, I ask specifically because, you know, for someone who's starting out on this journey, a lot of times when you watch classes or you listen to people talking on YouTube or whatever, they're like, I have multiple journals going on at the same time so that if one's drying, I can be working on another one. You know, you hear that a lot. But I can't do that. Like, I have tried and I just can't do it. Like, I have to have one spread that I'm focused on. So if something's drying, as you say, we're probably feeding a human or changing a load of laundry or whatever it is. But I'm not working on another spread, right? It's just, I am very much, there's a specific purpose for the spread and I'm all in on that spread. And when that one's done, I'll start a new one. So it's just interesting to hear how people approach things. And, you know, it's nice to sort of see both sides of it, because there might be someone out there who's feeling like, I've tried to have 3 spreads at a time, but it just doesn't feel right. Am I doing it wrong? Right? I think that's the first question you ask, especially if you're new and you haven't learned what your creative style is yet or how you prefer to create. Sometimes you could think that you're the problem, and it's actually just that it's just not how you create naturally.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that for me, the first word that comes to my mind is overwhelming. Like, that's overwhelming to have a few different journals open at one time, because I can't switch on and off like that. You know, like, as you said, we're sitting and we're getting it out on the pages of one journal, 2-page spread or 1-page spread, whatever it is. And honestly, I'm not waiting for it to dry. Oh, I'm using a heat tool, or like if I am at my art desk, like, I am committed unless there's like an emergency or something, or somebody's bleeding, or, you know.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
Like, I can get, you know, like 30 minutes or, you know, I don't know, maybe an hour or something. I can just get it all done in that amount of time. I'm not the type of person that is like mark making and slow stitching. No, I don't have the time nor the patience. Sometimes I'll do mark making, but not all over the place. That's way too much for me. I just don't have the patience, I guess. You know, I'm too, let me be real. I struggle to calm down and like sit down and rest. And, you know, the only time I really can chill and rest is probably when I'm sick and like on the couch. But so I just feel so, with the day-to-day routine, like, I have to just be so quick, and I'm bebopping around doing this and doing that, like you said, the laundry and, you know, all the things, and taking care of a 5-year-old still. Obviously there's a lot that she needs help with, you know. It's not like my 15-year-old who can just do his own thing. So I don't have a lot of time to sit here and do slow stitching and mark making. As much as I love the look of it, it's just not for me. So I'm just kind of a quick, get it out there, scribble the stuff, smear it, glue it down, dry it with my hair dryer, and then I move on, with whatever needs to be done. Like I can't even let it sit and dry. Oh no.
So I'm going to challenge you. I am going to challenge you and
Oh.
say that I don't think that it's because you don't have the patience. I'm sure you have got patience. Having 5 kids, you know what patience is. I'm going to say that you don't have a desire. There is no desire within you to do 50 layers of mark making.
Right. You're probably right.
Yeah, I don't think it's a patience thing. I just think that it doesn't speak to you, and that is totally okay. But I think you're selling yourself short by saying it's a patience problem, because then it's a you thing, right? Like I don't have the patience, so that's why I don't do it. But it's like, no, it just doesn't speak to you.
Yeah. Okay. I'll accept that. I'll accept that. Yeah, you're right, because if there's let's say I'm a student in a course or something, and there's a lot of mark making, I'm skipping that. I'm just naturally not, I might do a little bit, or slow stitching. I'm just naturally not drawn to that. I just don't want to do it. And maybe that comes from my quilting background, because I hand quilted. It wasn't quilting by machine. It was hand quilting that my grandmother taught me to do. And I did it
hang on, could there be a better example of having patience? Just putting it out there.
I know. Well, maybe I'm just past that, that season.
Yes, exactly. Right? It's just,
yeah. Well, I think too, what happened was the quilting was for other people. It was I was making baby quilts, and I was making t-shirt quilts, or memory quilts from out of people's clothing that they had passed away. Or for graduating high school students or college students, their parents would have me make a quilt out of all of their high school t-shirts, from band or sports or whatever. And so much of it was commission work. It takes the joy out of it, because it wasn't really art therapy. It wasn't therapeutic for me. And I ended up I did get some mild carpal tunnel, which I'm way too young for that. But I don't know. I just think I've let that part go, and the slow stitching takes me back to that. So it doesn't bring me joy.
Right. Yep. I think I think you should reframe it and just say it just doesn't speak to me.
Okay. I'll try to not throw myself under the bus and say that I'm too impatient.
Right. Exactly. If somebody, let's say, I don't know which color you don't like, but let's say it's orange. If somebody said you have to only use orange on this page,
I don't like orange. You picked it.
50 shades of orange, right? We're going to have a darker orange and a light orange. And you're just going to be like, there is no way I'm doing this. That's for the birds. So replace orange with marks, right? Same thing. If somebody says we're going to do 60 different marks on the page, you're going to be like, doesn't speak to me. And so it's just, that's it. It's not a patience thing. It's not a you thing. It's just, it doesn't speak to your creativity.
Well, thank you for clearing that up.
Thank you. If you need any more advice, I'm here. Just send me a message and we can meet up.
Okay. I might take you up on that.
Awesome. While we're on the topic, I would love to know what is inspiring you right now. What is getting your creative juices just all fizzy and excited to be able to get into your studio?
That's a good question, because coming off of a sickness, I always feel like I'm in kind of a funk after a sickness. I don't know if other people are like that, but gosh, I remember when I had COVID a couple of years ago, and I had it for weeks, and I had COVID pneumonia, and it was a disaster. When I finally was able to get back to my desk I literally had no clue what in the world I was doing. I was like, it was like I art journaled for the first time. It was so weird, but there was like this shift. I always find that after a sickness, there's like a shift, which is strange in my creativity. So, you know, yes, I was on the couch for one day yesterday with a sickness, and I am fighting a cold now. But when I went to my art desk this morning to work on Care December, I worked on those pages longer than I should have because it just was weird. I couldn't get into, maybe I didn't have the clarity of mind because I'm on, you know, medicine. I don't know what it was. So I'm not sure that I can really answer that question. I am enjoying Care December, you know, the pink edition, which is very strange to me, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, because, you know, we talked a little bit before about off, you know, camera, whatever, about our seasons. And I'm like, there's snow on the ground here. And so it's weird to be creating a lot with pink and florals when I'm looking outside and it's all gray and white and cold and dreary. But I'm embracing the pink. I mean, so I don't know. I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure. Like, and I've been just doing the prompts. So the prompts are kind of just kickstarting the like activity. And to be honest with you, for a few days, I haven't actually sat down and created just to create without a prompt. And I find that that is a struggle for me if I'm sick or was sick. I struggle to just create to create. It's almost like I need a prompt or some kind of theme or something to kickstart the creativity again. I don't know. Am I the only one? I hope I'm not the only one that happens to.
Well, I was just thinking it could be quite interesting that it could be your body's way of letting you know that there are going to be shifts in your creativity. You know, like, yeah, that's an interesting, that's a whole other topic that I think we've had enough therapy sessions for today. But you know, contact me, we'll have another chat. No, joking. It's just interesting because you can feel a shift after, you know, once you have recovered and sort of come back to your practice. There is definitely a shift in how you are creating or feeling about your creativity. So that's quite an interesting thing to unpick. But it's nice. I think it's nice to have prompts as a way to be able to get back, you know, if you've like gone through a creative slump or you are feeling a creative block. I think prompts are a good way to be able to just get back into it because you don't need to think so much. You can just rely on that as a starting off point and use it to sort of kickstart your creativity again.
I think so too. And I think especially with people who are just starting. Like I remember when I was just starting art journaling, like I didn't really know what I was doing. And I was creating to create, but I also think that like jumping in on like Junk Journal January, because that was like the first thing that was coming up when I started, you know, in the very end of 2020, when I started this art journaling experience, Junk Journal January was just right around the bend. And I think my earbud fell out of my ear. And that was really, I think, beneficial for me because it gave me a focus, like just starting out. It gave me a focus. And that allowed me to play with supplies. I didn't have to sit there and like feel what I was feeling and like, how do I express this? How do I dump this out on the pages? It was like, okay, this is the focus. I'm going to, use some supplies that I have, or I'm going to follow their lead, or, whoever is the host of it. So I really think that if you're starting out, joining some kind of free challenge or something to have prompts is really, really beneficial, especially when you are in a funk, you're in kind of a creative slump, or you're getting off of a sickness, or, just maybe you were away or something and you just weren't able to get to your art desk, and then you're like, I don't even know where to start. I think prompts are a really good thing.
Yeah. And there are different kinds of challenges too, right? You get challenges where it's just written prompts, so they're words to respond to, or techniques, or whatever it might be. And then there are also challenges that have videos to go along with them. So as you were saying, if you're just starting out, it might be nice to do challenges where there are videos that can be a kind of extra cushioning to give you some support and direction. And if you're in between and you're sort of not quite a beginner, but you also don't feel as though you have quite found your style or your voice, then doing challenges where it's just written prompts is a nice way to sort of bridge the gap between creating completely out of your own imagination or from your own sort of creative well, and having a bit of support to get you started. So there are also different, almost like different layers that you can use as challenges within your creativity.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, especially like if people are like really experienced and they can just take a prompt, one word, and go with it, awesome. But some people like really need direction, or they just don't really know techniques and they don't know what to do. And I say that because I'm thinking of, I have a private Facebook group, and I do like a Mixed Media Monday prompt, and like people really enjoy the prompt, and then I'll show my pages and just the still, and say what the prompt was. And like a lot of times people will try to mimic my pages that I've done, or I'll do a tutorial Tuesday, and like people will try to do what it is that I've done because they're learning. That's what it takes when you're new and you don't know your creative style and you're not confident in just sitting at your art desk and letting it flow. That's an awesome way to learn, is by, when there are prompts, like you said, or challenges where there is a lesson, there's a short little lesson of showing you how the person used that prompt. A lot of times people really need that, and they cling to that because that is how they can end up finding supplies that they like and don't like. That's how they can find techniques they like and don't like. And that's how they can end up finding their creative voice, like what their style is, what comes naturally to them if they are following along with prompts or following along with people's lessons, and I think that's really helpful. I think it's really, really helpful for people starting out.
Absolutely. And it's also a great way to try new things, right? Because you're just following along with the prompts, following the techniques. So often people try and sort of vary the techniques that they're presenting, especially if it is a challenge where it's running over multiple days or weeks or whatever the case might be. They sort of try and include a lot of variety within what they're presenting. So it's a nice way for you to be able to explore things without having to go too far down the rabbit hole. You can test out a whole lot of different techniques and see, did that feel good or did I not enjoy it? So as you say, it helps to build that creative voice and to understand what is it that speaks to you and what is it that you just don't, it just doesn't feel right. Sometimes things just don't fit.
Right. Like me and slow stitching and mark making.
And the color orange.
And the color orange. Although, surprisingly, I must say, as I was saying, I don't even like orange. In the fall, I have so much like burnt orange sweaters. Like, how many burnt orange sweaters does a person actually need? So I'm the person that doesn't like orange, but yet I was wearing a lot of burnt orange, but I'm wearing it. I'm not creating with it.
Yes,
so
there is a difference. Yes, absolutely. I felt like that about the color green. I love wearing green, have green dresses, green jackets. If I see green, I'm there. I want to buy it. But I did not like using green in my journals. It was like a heck no when it came to any kind of green. It's taken me years to the point where I actually like using green in my journals now, but
Wow.
I couldn't stand any green near my pages. But I love wearing
Wow.
green. So there is a
Wow.
difference, right? There's a difference
Okay.
between wearing it and using it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because I love green. It's my favorite color and I love to wear it, but I love to create with it.
Yeah.
But pink, I love to create with pink and I don't wear pink
Yeah,
really.
I agree.
Like
I
it,
agree
it
with that.
doesn't go with my skin tone. Like, no,
Mhm.
there's certain colors that you just don't wear.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and yeah, so it's quite interesting how one's relationship with things, again,
Mm-hmm.
there's always this sort of duality within things, right? So I don't think it's very seldom that you can say sort of in a blanket statement, I don't like X, because in one situation, like let's say watercolors, one situation you might love watercolors, you just haven't discovered that
Mm-hmm.
situation yet, maybe. And then other times it's like watercolors is just not the right supply. It's just not the right supply for that space or technique or paper or whatever it might be. So yeah, I think you should give everything a try at least once.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Yeah, give it a go.
Yes.
So if you have to sort of think about a color, we are on the topic of color, and I love asking people if they only had one color to work with for the rest of their art career, which color would it be and why? So have you got a color that you would decide to take along as your only color?
Oh, it might be green. It like off the top of my head, it might be green because I love green. It's my absolute favorite color, but I'm literally sitting at my desk now and I have plants, green plants. Oh, I have fake plants for the aesthetics of my photos. Literally green. I just love green. And so I want to say it would probably be green because I could do botanicals are probably a theme for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have to be florals. It can be leaves, some type of botanicals, and you can get many shades of green. So yeah, I'm gonna go with green.
I love it. And green's also very calming, right? It's a very calming color. So it makes sense, again, thinking back to your practice
Mm-hmm.
and your, what a lot of your pages focus on. I think green is a
Well,
good choice.
yeah, and I think when I think of green, I think of new. I think of new life and new and hope. And so I think because blue for me, I would say is the most calming, and I probably use blue a lot because of creating that calm space. Blue just seems like to be the most calming color, but I think green represents so much of like new life and turning the page and hope.
Mm.
And maybe that's why, if we're going to, have a therapy session here, maybe that's what it is because I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful of certain struggles in life
Mm.
working their way out, and that good will come from certain hard struggles. And I think out of any color, maybe green would represent that the most.
Oh, fantastic. It's quite interesting because I would say blue for me would, I find it a very depressing color. So if I'm using blue in spreads, it's like it's very heavy. Like it would be a heavy emotion that I was expressing using blue. So I love how even people's interpretations and relationships with color is so unique to themselves and their creativity and their voice, right? So it's really, I think it's magical. I love color. I think it's absolutely fantastic. So I love that
Absolutely,
everybody's got
absolutely.
their own interpretation. Yeah.
I struggle with an emotional color wheel because like what yellow might mean to you, it doesn't mean to me. So I don't really like that kind of lumping everything into one, emotional category based on color, and so I think, yeah, I don't know how I feel about that, about the emotional color wheel, because if I see pages that have like, yellow, that person might have felt completely different than what I'm getting from that, but so yeah, color is amazing, but I think if we can tap into our own interpretation of what we feel that color
Yes.
means to us.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it would actually be a fun exercise, right? If you really focused on, while you were creating, what color you're reaching for when you're trying to express different feelings, and sort of documented it somewhere and had a look at what those colors mean specifically to you. It would be quite interesting how you could develop, again, that creative voice for yourself on what those colors mean within your work, instead of trying to make it fit into the interpretation that people have given to colors.
Right. Oh, that's actually a good point, because sometimes I struggle when I'm doing like a lesson, or if I'm doing just recording my process, and then I have to like say why I'm doing what I'm doing, or why I'm grabbing what I'm grabbing. And sometimes that's really hard, because when you just naturally choose certain things, it's hard to explain why you're grabbing this color, or why you're putting this here or putting this there, So
That is true.
that's a good challenge to try to document, knowing how you're feeling at that time when you're sitting at your art desk. And then just pausing after grabbing certain colors and just evaluating, why did I grab this? What am I feeling? And what did this spark for me? And documenting that would definitely be an interesting thing.
Yeah. Oh, I love this. It's an exciting idea.
For
I love
sure.
it. Yeah. Thank you so much for chatting to me today. It has been such a treat to be able to pick your mind and to get some insights and nuggets of inspiration and wisdom from you. Thank you so much for sharing your heart with us and for sharing your art with us. It has definitely touched many people's lives through the lessons that you've presented, and just through sharing in the community and on Instagram and all the spaces that you're involved in. You really are such an inspiration. Thank you so very much.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that very, very much. Very much. And thank you so much for asking me to do this and picking my brain.